Dun 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 dun. Dun 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 dun. Break it down now. Poop do 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 do. Da ba da boot. Do boo do 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 do. That's the wrong song. Book do do. Do boo do 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 do. Okay, that's it.
Something I wanted to bring up today is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, and I think it's because I've been again, I don't know why I do this to myself, but I stopped thinking about Pokemon for a while, and then I saw a video that talked about why Pokemon Sword and Shield is bad. And I just watch it because I just like watching videos where someone confirms my feelings. Which is something you shouldn't do.
It is nice.
It's just nice to have.
It's nice when it's video game related, at least.
Yeah. And this isn't about Pokemon. But I wanted to see if you guys could think of games like this that I'm about to explain. And I think Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal do a good job at this. And that is a game that builds off of its first game in the sequel. I kind of explained that a little bit badly, but Pokemon, let's say Pokemon Blue, Green, and Red. They were the first Pokemon games ever. You were in oh my gosh, what is the region? I can't even remember. Kanto region. And then in Splatoon. And then in Pokemon Gold, Silver, and Crystal, they just added on to everything they already had in Pokemon Blue. They added a new region, new gyms, and then they had Pokemon Kanto region in there. And I'm trying to think of other games that did that and that didn't do that. And just to kind of give ideas for games that we love, what sequels could look like. For example, we used to play a lot of Mario Tennis back in the day. But every time new Mario Tennis games would come out, it's like they would wipe the slate clean again and just make a just completely new Mario Tennis game that wasn't like the ones before. And I was always a little upset about that. I don't know if you shared those same feelings.
No, I do. I mean, I don't mind them doing something completely new. It's just that the stuff never lives up to the old stuff. It never exceeds it. In fact, it usually falls down several steps of quality. Graphics wise, they're better, but gameplay wise, they're always what, graphics?
Sometimes, yeah.
Oh yeah, but yeah, usually overall they're just not nearly as fun, and there's not as much content, there's not as much charm and love that went into it.
Yeah, I think my point with Mario Tennis was Anders and I really loved Mario Tennis for Game Boy Color because they had like an RPG and stuff. Not like
it was so fun.
Yeah, and it was like a role-playing game, and you had to level up and meet all these people, and there was a story. I don't know why Nintendo takes that away, like, in their new games. It's like they have to take all the stuff that was good about the previous games and just think of something new and wing it in the next game. I think a good example of this, again, is with Pokemon, the Z moves, the Mega Evolutions, and the Gigantamaxing and stuff. Like, why do they have to put all this effort into, like, Mega Evolutions and then completely delete it from the game in the next game? I don't understand why Nintendo has to do that, guys.
Yeah.
Do you guys not like that either?
We are not talking, at least, I mean, we're not talking about, like, the mainline Mario solo games or the main Zelda games, or, I mean, because, like, a lot of their main IPs, the main games that come out for them are usually really good. It's most of their other stuff and their Mario parties and their sports games and they're not primary IP games, I guess, that are usually like, eh.
Yeah. It just seems that Nintendo is just very different, and I think we're all forced to comply. I really don't think there's anything we can do.
I think growing up, because I think maybe it is. I know it's not totally our age, because there are people younger that probably agree, and a lot of younger people or people our age that don't agree with us. But I do think there's the fact that we grew up with Nintendo, and I feel like we saw them in their golden age.
Yeah.
And then seeing how they've changed has also been very disheartening. And for the first time in my life, I am thinking like, I want to get a PlayStation so I don't have to like rely on Nintendo for video games anymore, because even though like I'll never leave Nintendo, only because I still want to play Smash Bros and Zelda games and the solo Mario games, and like anything great that happens to come out. But that's pretty much it, because a lot of their stuff is usually disappointing. It doesn't live, or it doesn't gosh, I can never find the right words at the right times, but anyway, it just isn't up there with like Sony and Microsoft have their issues too, obviously. But I just feel like for people who want like competitive games and like to play with their friends online, which is like everybody nowadays, Nintendo has just been failing them and in some of their creativity departments. So now I'm just like, I like really legitimately want to get a PlayStation, because there's all these really good games that I'm missing out on, and this wide selection of games that I'm missing out on. And I really love story games, which I never get from Nintendo except for like with Zelda. And PlayStation has a lot of those, and I want to play them instead of just watching people play them on YouTube.
Yeah. I just got a PlayStation last year, for some of you who didn't know. I think it was last year. And since then I've played Horizon Zero Dawn, Final Fantasy VII Remake, and I just finished God of War. And I loved those games.
Oh, wow.
Those games are really good.
I forgot you were playing that.
Yeah,
I want to play them.
I just finished that 2 weeks ago, I think. Inky said Nintendo uses a tactic to their benefit and their downfall. They reinvent the wheel every time, but they fix what ain't broken. Yeah, they keep trying to do a huge gimmick every time they make a console. It's not.
Yeah, like honestly like.
Wait, what were you gonna say?
A super. I was just gonna say. I mean, I almost sometimes I stop when I'm sharing my opinion, because I know there's people that disagree, and I don't want to anger them. But that's the point of sharing my opinion. Anyway, I personally am, as a long-time Nintendo fan, I've just, since the Wii came out, I am just not a fan of the gimmicks and like the Wiimotes and the motion sensors and the focus they put on that, instead of making, not that they don't have good games, because they do, and not that they don't have good graphics, because, well, they don't, but gosh, what was I saying? I wish they would put their primary focus on making smoother gameplay and focusing on the creativity of their games inside, instead of the external stuff. Like, you can play on your toilet, which is cool. I mean, I think the Switch is better than the Wii U and the Wii, in my opinion. But I would rather have a strong console that allows me to play Nintendo games, because I love Mario and I love Zelda and I love this stuff, but I want to play them with good graphics and good stories and good all this stuff and good online gameplay.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to sound like a baby who's like, oh, smashing my fist.
Well,
it's just that I love Nintendo, and I am sad that they're not doing these things for the people that love them.
Well, I think I completely agree. And I think the reason we're feeling this way, because I'm feeling the complete same. And I think it's because during the GameCube era and before, Microsoft, PlayStation, and Nintendo had the same goal. It was to create video games and make them fun, and so that you can sit down on your couch and play them on the TV. But Sony and Microsoft kept going in that direction, and when the Wii came out, it's like Nintendo stopped trying to be a gaming company, but instead they tried to become a company that sells something that's fun for the whole family, and then when you're bored of it, we make our next gimmick and you buy that next one in the future. It's like their main goal isn't to create a video gaming experience. And I say this because Miyamoto has said that before. I think he has said that they're trying to be more like Disney now. They're not trying to be, they don't know if they're going to be doing video games forever. And I think that Nintendo fans are starting to see and feel that.
Yeah.
Because the way I personally play video games is I want to see, like, if I play Horizon Zero Dawn and I love the game, and when the sequel comes out, because I love visuals, I love seeing where graphics can go to the next level. Nintendo doesn't provide that anymore, and I don't think they're trying to. So I'm going to keep going to, like, Xbox and Sony. So when Horizon Zero comes out, when the sequel comes out, it's going to look better, and they're going to build off what they did in the first one. And I don't think that Nintendo does that anymore. And to Inky's point, he says, it doesn't help that I literally can't afford any of their crap. I'm assuming that you're talking about, like, PlayStation, because that's what you guys were talking about before. You're right. But I think that's because when you start investing money into, like, PlayStation or Xbox, it's because your hobby is gaming, and you're looking for the next level gaming or whatever the heck. And I think that Nintendo products are becoming more and more like quick gimmicks that you can buy, get bored, and then play the next one. And it doesn't satisfy my desire for a developing story, great, amazing visuals, and next-gen consoles and stuff like that. MJ said, the thing for me is that most of the games I play are third-party games, so I don't really have a strong allegiance to Nintendo. Something I've realized more and more when I'm playing third-party games on the Nintendo Switch is that they all play horribly and look horrible compared to their Sony and Microsoft counterparts.
Yeah.
And I have Mortal Kombat on the Nintendo Switch and on PC, and it, like, the graphics can't even compare. And I understand, like, well, if you're gonna buy it for the graphics and stuff, don't get it for Switch. But most people who are gonna buy third-party games on the Switch, I'm pretty certain want the experience the developers of the game wanted you to have. And what's that game that just came out? It's like a Breath of the Wild clone that's, for lack of a better term, it's probably inspired by it. It's with that angel. The character looks like Pit almost. And I didn't see it. I saw a comparison between the Switch version and the PS4 version, and it was just, there was no comparison. The PS4 just looks so good. And that's partially why I, James Erickson, play games. Because they play well, they have a good story, but they also look visually amazing. And Nintendo can't give that anymore.
You know, I can't believe I haven't hopped on the PlayStation wagon yet. Like, I feel like
because it's $500 about.
Yeah, actually, that's true. It's just expensive, and I'm a broke, starving artist. So
no, not Genshin Impact. The other one. The one Inky said, Immortals Phoenix Rising.
Oh, I did hear about that, and I had no idea what it was. Now I know. I was gonna say something, and then I forgot. Someone said they're sad. Critiquing Nintendo makes them sad. Hey, if you still love their games and stuff, keep enjoying them and keep loving them. You're not doing anything wrong for loving Nintendo and not agreeing with us.
And I think critiquing Nintendo does also make me sad, because I grew up with Nintendo. But I think when you're upset about something you like, it's important to kind of talk it out so you kind of know why you're upset. And obviously there are people out there be like, why are you getting so upset about a video game, boy? I mean, I don't care about those people, first of all. Second of all, for a lot of us, Nintendo and just gaming in general is something that was important to us growing up. And so
even for, well, no matter what age, like, it's in a sense an art form. And just like with movies and TV and books and stuff, they affect our emotions in positive ways, and they help us work through things, and they help inspire us and stuff. And they do so many important things for us, but on the surface, to people who on the outside who don't care for that stuff, they just don't get it, and they like to crap on it and talk down about it because like, let's go play football because we're outside. It's like, you can love your football, let me love my gaming. They both have great things about them.
Yeah.
I'm not personally affected by this or anything.
I was gonna make another comment about my expectations for Nintendo when I was growing up. And I think Pokemon is a really good example, because there's a lot of people who like started playing Pokemon in like Gen 4, 5, 6, whatever. And a lot of us who started playing Pokemon in Gen 1 loved the game. It was so incredible. Obviously, it grew huge. Everyone knows the story of Pokemon. But when you're playing a game that you love, you always think, wow, that was great. I wonder how they're going to make this even better in the future. And I think most people in my generation, and maybe Anders' generation too, because you played Pokemon a little bit.
We're pretty much in the same generation.
Yeah. I mean, pretty much. And so you start imagining, like, imagine this as an open world game where you can just go out and it looks realistic and you can just go catch Pokemon and this and that. And I think if Pokemon was owned by Microsoft or Sony, who are gaming companies, they would have fleshed out and kept developing Pokemon and evolving Pokemon to be appropriate on new consoles and stuff, like next gen consoles. But because it's Nintendo's thing, they made tons of money, and now it's like, ever since it became 3D, it's like a cash cow, and I feel like they're slowly going to be making less money on this thing. They keep copying and pasting, but Sony and Microsoft are not primarily gaming. You know what I mean, MJ. I mean PlayStation and Xbox.
MJ, you're banned. You're not mod anymore. Goodbye. I'm just kidding.
Something that I've learned over the past several years is that gamers and those who really enjoy sports have so much more in common that we don't realize, or that we miss sometimes. And I think if we can... The problem with human beings is that, for example, gamers have their biases against people who don't like video games and like sports, and people who like sports and don't like video games have their biases against people who play games, and then they just stop there. They don't try to get to know the other side very often, and so they just keep their biases and sometimes end up getting scared or making fun of the other side. And I have a lot of friends that love sports and don't play video games. And I've started to see how common our mindsets are to the things that we like. So I would suggest that we all do ourselves a favor and really try to be open with the people who don't agree with us on a lot of things. And I'm talking a lot about sports and video games. That's my TED Talk. What's a TED Talk? I don't really know what a TED Talk is. Anyways.
What was I gonna say? I feel like that could be its own video.
I know, seriously.
That whole subject of comparing sports and video games, but we don't have that organized or anything, so yeah.
To Inky, to reply to you, you said, however, it is hard to break out of a mindset you've been in for over a decade. This is true, but it's not impossible. Plus, it's much easier for a person your age to change your mindset about something than it is someone who's 50 years old and is set in their ways, which is worse. Unfortunately, there are lots of people who are much older and are set in their ways, and it's so much harder for them to change. And they can't be an example.
Actually, that's something did you just say you're going to give them an example?
No, they can't be an example to people.
Oh.
As a good example.
Yeah, well, I was going to say, talking about Nintendo and their weird decisions and stuff. I've said this before, and I was just thinking about it again today, randomly. I feel like they need younger people, and not even just for video games, for a lot of stuff. Not super young people, but like maybe like 30s, even maybe late 20s. Because those people... Younger people are a lot of times they have like more inspired to do stuff like this, and their ideas are still fresh, and they're still like in the thick of like wanting to get their hands dirty and all this creative stuff and doing these things and moving things forward. I feel like you should have, Nintendo especially, at least a few more young people in your high up departments who make decisions, who make big decisions
Yeah.
about what they're doing, so because they're more in touch they're more in touch with what younger people want and what younger generations want. Not that there's anything wrong with old people. I don't have anything wrong with against old people.
Yeah.
But I do think it's very important to have diversity in age.
Yeah. I agree. I think that goes actually a lot with what I was saying earlier between gamers and sports, except now it's young people and old people. And I think we're moving away from younger people respecting the wisdom that older people have. And older people are also a lot of them don't trust young people. I mean, I feel like this plays out in lots of movies and shows. Where the old person just doesn't trust the younger person to come in and make decisions, and sometimes the younger person just doesn't trust the wisdom and the experience of the older person. I honestly think if we could have a balance between the people who have been there forever, asking the younger person who is young, is inspired by the older person, has many ideas, if they would listen to them, and maybe the older person come alongside them and say, okay, let's see what we can do. I can help you with the things that I've screwed up in the past. Yeah. And yabba dabba do. And yeah, indie games are great in this regard. You're right. There are a lot of indie gamers that are young, that have all these ideas, aren't allowed to make their ideas known in big AAA studios. So they just sit down and, you know what? I'm going to create this game, and people love it.
It's the same with movies and TV. It's exactly the same.
Yeah.
You copy paste that whole subject onto movie making.
Yeah, I know. It's funny how a lot of these ideas and topics can be copy and pasted onto many other walks in life.
Yes.